Jake Morrison stood in the center of the Great Hall on Centauri Prime and felt the weight of 800 alien eyes watching him. The Galactic Council chamber stretched out like a vast arena with seats rising in circles around the speaking floor. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in judgment, their strange forms and colors creating a rainbow of hostility that pressed down on him like a physical force. The human ambassador straightened his shoulders and looked up at the golden platform where Chancellor Vexitar of the Zephyrian Empire sat like a king on his throne. The alien's blue skin gleamed under the chamber lights and his forearms moved in graceful gestures as he spoke. His voice carried clearly through the translation devices that every being wore. "The charges against humanity are clear," Vexitar said with satisfaction dripping from every word. "They spread too fast across our galaxy. They build too many weapons. They take worlds that belong to others. They are a danger to the peace we have built over thousands of years." Jake felt his hands clench into fists at his sides, but forced himself to stay calm. He had been Earth's voice in this chamber for 7 years and had watched the political winds shift against his people. The other species feared humanity's rapid expansion across the stars. They saw humans as young and dangerous, too quick to fight and too slow to listen. "Honorable council members," Jake said as he activated his speaking device. "Humanity has followed every law and treaty. We have paid our dues and kept our promises. The colonies we founded were in unclaimed space. The ships we built were for defense only. We have never attacked another species first." A ripple of sound moved through the chamber. Some beings clicked or hummed or made other noises that the translators turned into dismissive laughter. Jake had heard it all before in smaller meetings and private conversations. To most of the council, humans were newcomers who had arrived only 50 years ago and already acted like they owned the galaxy. Councillor Thane of the Altarian Republic raised one of his long tentacles. The squid-like being had always been fair to humanity, though never friendly. "Ambassador Morrison speaks truth about human actions," Thane said in his bubbling voice. "But actions can be legal and still be threatening. In 50 years, humanity has founded 200 colonies. The next fastest-growing species took 300 years to do the same." "Because we work hard and move fast," Jake replied. "Is that a crime now? Do you punish success?" Vexitar's laugh was like breaking glass. "Success? You call it success when you ignore the wisdom of older races? When you refuse to slow down even when asked politely? When you build warships as fast as you build schools?" The Chancellor stood up to his full height, which was twice as tall as any human. "The Terran Defense Fleet has grown by 40% in the last 5 years alone. To defend our colonies from pirates and raiders," Jake shot back. "The same, pirates that attack Altarian ships and Centauri trade vessels. We protect ourselves because the Council's peacekeepers are stretched too thin. Or perhaps," said a new voice from the Draconian section, "humans create the very problems they claim to solve." The reptilian delegate hissed between words. "Every system with human colonies reports more conflict than before." Jake felt the mood in the chamber turning darker. He had prepared for this day for months, knowing it would come eventually. The two smaller species were tired of feeling overshadowed by human energy and growth. The larger empires saw humans as competition for resources and influence. Even Earth's few allies were starting to distance themselves from the controversy. "What do you want from us?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. "Do you want us to abandon our colonies? Stop building ships? Tell our people to stop having children because we grow too fast for your comfort? We want you to leave," Vexitar said simply. "The Galactic Council votes today on Resolution 847X. All those in favor of expelling humanity from the galactic community, please register your choice." The voting began immediately. Jake watched the great board above the chamber as lights appeared, next to each species' name. Green for yes, red for no, yellow for abstaining. The pattern became clear within moments. Green lights far outnumbered everything else. The Altarians voted yellow, abstaining as Jake had expected. A few of the smaller species that traded heavily with human colonies voted red in humanity's favor, but the vast majority lit up green, agreeing to cast humanity out of the only galactic government that existed. The vote is 847 in favor, 12 against, with 23 abstentions, announced the council secretary, a mechanical being whose voice never showed emotion. Resolution 847X passes. Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council effective immediately. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach but kept his voice steady. What are the terms? Vextar smiled, showing far too many teeth. All human diplomatic missions are terminated today. All trade agreements are void. All joint projects are cancelled. Humanity has 30 standard days to withdraw from all systems that contain non-human colonies or installations. After that time, any human presence in council space will be considered an act of aggression. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from most sections. Jake looked around at the hundreds of beings who had just voted to isolate his entire species and felt a burning anger grow in his chest. These aliens thought they could force humanity to crawl back to Earth and stay there forever. They thought humans would beg and plead for a chance to return. They were wrong. You will regret this decision, Jake said loudly enough for his voice to carry through the entire chamber without amplification. The noise died down as beings turned to hear his final words. Humanity remembers its friends and its enemies. We will not forget what happened here today. Vextar laughed again. Threats, Ambassador? From a species being sent home in disgrace, how very human of you. Jake straightened his uniform jacket and picked up his datapad from the speaking podium. That wasn't a threat, Chancellor. That was a promise. He walked out of the chamber with his head held high while 800 alien voices rose behind him in celebration. Captain Lisa Warren waited for him in the corridor with a full security escort, her face grim with anger and disappointment. The ships are ready to leave, sir, she reported. All human personnel are being recalled from council facilities. Jake nodded and started walking toward the docking bay where their transport waited. Send word to Earth, Captain. Tell them the council has made their choice. Now we make ours. The 30 days that followed passed like a bad dream. Human colonies and shared systems packed up and moved out. Trade stations were abandoned. Joint research projects were shut down overnight. Humanity retreated to the outer rim of the galaxy, while the council celebrated their victory over the troublesome newcomers. But Jake Morrison smiled as he watched Earth grow larger through his ship's viewport. The aliens had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They thought they had solved their human problem by casting them out. Instead, they had just given humanity 15 years to prepare for their return. Dr. Amanda Foster stared at the quantum readings on her screen and felt her heart skip a beat. After 3 years of failed experiments in the deep space laboratory orbiting Saturn, she had finally cracked the code that had been haunting human scientists since the expulsion from the Galactic Council. Run the simulation again, she told her assistant, Dr. Kevin Brooks, who sat at the next console over. I want to make sure we're reading this correctly. The laboratory hummed with quiet energy as dozens of researchers worked on projects that would have been impossible to imagine just 15 years earlier. When humanity had been cast out from galactic society, Earth's leaders made a decision that changed everything. Instead of wallowing in defeat, they poured every resource into research and development. The best minds from every human colony were brought together in hidden facilities like this one. Amanda watched the numbers flow across her screen and smiled. The quantum field generator was working exactly as her theories predicted. For the first time in human history, they had created a stable energy shield that could deflect any known weapon. The breakthrough came from studying alien technology recovered from old battlefields and crash sites, then improving on the basic concepts with human engineering. The field strength is holding at 847 terawatts, Kevin reported with excitement in his voice. That's enough to stop a direct hit from a Zephyrian plasma cannon. More than enough, Amanda said. This shield could probably stop 10 plasma cannons firing at once. She saved the data and sent it immediately to Admiral Carl Stone at the Mars shipyards. Within hours, every human warship under construction would be equipped with the new defensive system. The years since the expulsion had been hard but productive for humanity. Earth's government had united like never before, creating the Terran Defense Council to coordinate their response to galactic isolation. President Helen Cross had been elected on a platform of human independence and technological advancement. Her administration funneled massive resources into military research while maintaining strict secrecy about their progress. Admiral Stone had become the face of humanity's new military philosophy. The old Terran defense fleet had been small and focused on peacekeeping and colony protection. The new Earth defense fleet was being built for war, not because humans wanted to fight, but because they had learned that strength was the only thing other species respected. Amanda left her laboratory and took the transport shuttle to the main construction bay where Admiral Stone was inspecting the latest addition to the human fleet. The UES Defiance stretched out before them like a metal mountain, its hull bristling with new weapons and defensive systems that no alien species had ever seen before. "Dr. Foster." The Admiral greeted her with a tired smile. Carl Stone had aged quickly during the isolation years, his hair going gray and lines deepening around his eyes. But his dedication to rebuilding human strength had never wavered. "I take it the quantum shield tests were successful." "Beyond our best hopes," Amanda replied as they walked along the observation deck overlooking the massive warship. "We're not just matching alien technology anymore, Admiral. We're surpassing it." Stone nodded with satisfaction. "Good, because, according to our intelligence reports, we're going to need every advantage we can get." The intelligence reports came from an unexpected source. Counselor Thane of the Altarian Republic had been secretly communicating with Earth through hidden channels for the past 2 years. The squid-like alien felt guilty about not supporting humanity during the expulsion vote and had been feeding information about Council activities to President Cross. "What's the latest from our Altarian friend?" Amanda asked. "The Zephyrians are planning something big," Stone replied grimly. "Thane's sources suggest they want to expand into the Outer Rim territories where our colonies are located. Chancellor Vexitar has been building support for a preemptive strike against human settlements." Amanda felt a chill run down her spine. "Do they know about our military buildup?" "They suspect we haven't been sitting idle, but they have no idea how far we've advanced." Stone gestured toward the UES Defiance with pride. "This ship alone could take on 12 alien cruisers and win. We have 30 more just like it nearing completion." The UES Defiance was the pride of human engineering, incorporating every breakthrough made during the isolation years. Its hull was made from a new titanium carbon composite that was lighter and stronger than any alien material. The weapon systems combined human kinetic technology with improved versions of alien energy weapons. Most importantly, it was equipped with Amanda's quantum shields and a new propulsion system that could outrun anything in the galaxy. Captain Ben Rogers had been chosen to command the flagship after proving himself during the evacuation from Council space 15 years earlier. He was young for such responsibility, but had shown the kind of tactical thinking that human commanders would need in the coming conflict. "Captain Rogers is running combat simulations in the training facility," Admiral Stone continued as they watched technicians work on the ship's hull. "His crews are practicing maneuvers that alien commanders have never seen before. When the time comes to reveal our capabilities, we want the shock to be complete." Amanda understood the strategy. Humanity had spent 15 years in forced isolation, and the galactic community assumed they had spent that time in decline and weakness. The truth was exactly the opposite. Every human colony had been fortified. Every ship had been upgraded. Every soldier had been trained for the war that everyone knew was coming. The most impressive change was in human unity. Before the expulsion, Earth's colonies had maintained some independence and local identity. Now they were completely integrated into a single military and political structure. The Outer Rim territories that had seemed like humanity's weakness were now their greatest strength, providing resources and industrial capacity that no alien species could match. "There's something else," Admiral Stone said quietly as they reached his private office overlooking the construction bay. "President Cross received another message from Counselor Thane yesterday. The Zephyrian fleet is moving toward the New Portland system." New Portland was one of humanity's largest Outer Rim colonies, home to nearly 10 million people. It had been established just 2 years before the expulsion and was considered one of the crown jewels of human expansion. If Vexitar was planning to attack there, it meant he wanted to send a message that humanity's isolation was permanent. "How long do we have?" Amanda asked. Captain Rogers and the UES Defiance will reach New Portland in 6 days, Stone replied. The Zephyrian fleet should arrive about the same time. It will be our first real test. Amanda felt a mixture of excitement and fear. For 3 years, she had worked on theoretical problems and laboratory experiments. Soon her shields would face real enemy weapons in actual combat. The fate of human independence might depend on whether her calculations were correct. Are you worried? She asked the Admiral. Stone looked out at the UES Defiance and the dozens of other ships under construction in the vast bay. 15 years ago, we were thrown out of the galactic community like unwanted children. They expected us to disappear quietly into the outer rim and eventually fade away. Instead, we became something stronger than they ever imagined. He turned to face Amanda with confidence blazing in his eyes. No, Dr. Foster, I'm not worried at all. I almost feel sorry for whatever alien commander is foolish enough to test us first. The next few days passed in a blur of final preparations. The UES Defiance and its escort fleet departed for New Portland, while Amanda and her team made last-minute adjustments to the quantum shield systems. Everyone on Earth knew that humanity was about to announce its return to galactic affairs, but no one knew exactly how that announcement would be received. Amanda watched the ships disappear into the darkness of space and whispered a prayer for Captain Rogers and his crew. The quiet years were ending. Soon the galaxy would learn what humanity had become during its time in exile. The lesson would be unforgettable. Captain Ben Rogers stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the Zephyrian battle fleet emerge from hyperspace near New Portland. 17 alien warships materialized in flashes of blue light, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. The enemy had no idea what was waiting for them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," reported Lieutenant Sarah Martinez at the communication station. "Colonel Amy Davis is requesting permission to begin the demonstration." Ben smiled grimly. "Tell the Colonel she has full authorization. Let's show our visitors what humanity has been doing for the past 15 years. New Portland had been transformed during the isolation period, from a simple farming colony into a fortress world that could defend itself against any threat. Colonel Davis commanded a garrison of 50,000 troops equipped with weapons and armor that would have seemed like magic to the aliens who had expelled humanity from the Council. Underground bunkers connected every major city. Orbital defense platforms surrounded the planet like a crown of thorns. But the most impressive change was invisible to alien sensors. Dr. Amanda Foster's quantum shield technology had been adapted for planetary defense, creating an energy barrier that could protect the entire world from orbital bombardment. The Zephyrians were about to learn that their traditional tactics would be useless against human engineering. "Enemy fleet is moving into attack formation," announced Lieutenant Jack Murphy from the tactical station. 17 heavy cruisers and battle destroyers. They're heading straight for the planet. "Let them come," Ben replied calmly. "All ships maintain stealth protocol. We'll reveal ourselves when the time is right." The UES Defiance and its 5 escort vessels remained hidden behind New Portland's largest moon, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to alien sensors. Ben wanted the enemy commander to believe he was facing only a planetary defense system. The shock of meeting a human fleet in open combat would be that much greater. On the planet below, Colonel Davis watched the approaching alien ships through the command center's main display. She had spent 3 years preparing New Portland's defenses for exactly this scenario. Every soldier knew their role and every weapon was ready to fire. The Zephyrians expected to find a helpless human colony ripe for conquest. Instead, they would face the most advanced military force in the galaxy. "Incoming transmission from the enemy fleet," reported her communications officer, Major Lisa Park. "They're demanding immediate surrender." "Put them through," Davis ordered with a cold smile. The holographic display flickered and showed the bridge of a Zephyrian cruiser. Admiral Kexton appeared before them, his blue skin marked with the ritual scars that showed his military rank. His forearms moved in gestures of absolute authority as he spoke through the translation device. "Human colonists of New Portland," the alien commander declared, "you are in violation of Galactic Council Resolution 847X by maintaining an illegal settlement in restricted space. You have 1 hour to evacuate this system or face the consequences of your defiance. Colonel Davis activated her own transmission system and looked directly into Kextan's alien eyes. Admiral Kextan, this is Colonel Amy Davis of the New Portland Defense Force. We reject your demands completely. This world belongs to humanity, and we will defend it with every weapon at our disposal. The Zephyrian admiral laughed, a sound like breaking crystal that the translators rendered as mockery. You dare threaten the third battle fleet of the Zephyrian Empire? We have 17 ships capable of reducing your pathetic colony to ashes. What could a handful of exiled humans possibly do against us? You're about to find out, Davis replied and cut the transmission. Kextan stared at the blank screen for a moment before turning to his weapons officer. Target their major cities. Full plasma bombardment. These humans need to learn the price of defying their betters. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with concentrated plasma beams that had destroyed countless worlds over the centuries. Brilliant streams of superheated energy lanced down toward New Portland's surface, carrying enough destructive force to melt mountains and boil oceans. The beams struck an invisible barrier 10 kilometers above the planet and vanished like smoke. Dr. Foster's quantum shields absorbed the energy and converted it harmlessly into the planet's power grid. Every building on New Portland suddenly blazed with light, as the alien attack actually strengthened human defenses. Impossible, Admiral Kextan whispered, as he watched his most powerful weapons fail completely. How can they have shield technology that advanced? His question was answered by Colonel Davis, whose voice echoed across every Zephyrian ship through their communication systems. 15 years ago, you threw us out of the galactic community because you feared human potential. You thought isolation would weaken us. Instead, it forced us to become stronger than you ever imagined. The human response began with orbital defense platforms that emerged from hidden positions throughout the New Portland system. Massive railguns fired solid projectiles at significant portions of light speed, accelerated by magnetic fields that human engineers had refined far beyond anything aliens had achieved. The kinetic weapons punched through Zephyrian shields like paper and tore holes in alien hulls that no emergency system could seal. 3 enemy cruisers were destroyed in the first 30 seconds of the engagement. Admiral Kextan's flagship took a direct hit that collapsed its entire port side and sent it spinning helplessly through space. The precision and power of human weapons was unlike anything the Zephyrians had faced in centuries of conquest. All ships evasive maneuvers, Kextan screamed into his communication system. Request immediate reinforcements from Central Command. But the human attack was just beginning. Captain Ben Rogers chose that moment to reveal his fleet, dropping stealth protocols as the UES Defiance and its escorts emerged from behind the moon like avenging angels. The massive human battleship dwarfed every alien vessel in the system, its hull bristling with weapons that had been designed specifically to counter Council military technology. This is Captain Ben Rogers of the UES Defiance, Ben announced on all frequencies. You have attacked a human world without provocation. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction. Admiral Kextan looked at the human ship approaching, his battered fleet, and felt fear like ice in his veins. The UES Defiance was larger than any vessel in the Zephyrian Navy and moved with impossible grace for something so massive. Its weapons were already charging, creating energy signatures that his sensors couldn't properly analyze. We surrender! Kextan screamed as another orbital defense platform destroyed 2 more of his ships. Please, we surrender! Too late for that, Captain Rogers replied coldly. You came here to commit genocide against human civilians. The only reason you're still alive is because we want witnesses to carry news of this battle back to the Council. The UES Defiance opened fire with its main weapons, demonstrating the full power of human military advancement. Coherent energy beams sliced through alien shields like they weren't there and carved precise wounds in enemy hulls. Railgun projectiles fired from the battleship's secondary batteries moved so fast they appeared as streaks of light, each impact vaporizing sections of Zephyrian armor. But the most terrifying aspect of the human attack was its precision. Captain Rogers and his crew were not trying to destroy the enemy fleet completely. They were surgically disabling each ship, leaving the crews alive but helpless. Every shot hit exactly where it was intended, showing a level of tactical skill that no alien commander had seen before. Within 10 minutes, Admiral Kextan's entire fleet was drifting powerless through space. 17 proud Zephyrian warships had been reduced to floating scrap metal by a single human battleship, and a handful of orbital platforms. The demonstration of human capabilities was complete and terrifying. "Admiral," Captain Rogers transmitted, to the crippled alien flagship, "I'm allowing one of your scout ships to return to Zephyrian space. Take this message to your Chancellor and the Galactic Council. Humanity remembers every species that voted to expel us 15 years ago. We remember every insult and every threat. Consider this battle a small preview of what awaits anyone foolish enough to attack human territory again." The surviving scout ship limped away from New Portland as fast as its damaged engines could carry it. Behind them, human crews began the process of salvaging alien technology and taking prisoners for intelligence purposes. The battle had lasted less than an hour, but its effects would echo throughout the galaxy for years to come. Colonel Davis stood in her command center and watched human ships patrol the space around New Portland. The planet was safe and the message was sent. After 15 years of exile and preparation, humanity had announced its return to galactic affairs in the most dramatic way possible. Captain Rogers contacted Earth Command from the UES Defiance Bridge. "Mission accomplished, Admiral Stone. The Zephyrian threat has been eliminated and the enemy fleet destroyed. New Portland is secure." Admiral Stone's voice carried clearly through the communication system, filled with pride and satisfaction. "Excellent work, Captain. Phase 1 is complete. Prepare for Phase 2. It's time to visit the Galactic Council and have a conversation about humanity's future." Chancellor Vexistar paced back and forth across his private office on Centauri Prime, while the emergency council session raged in the chamber below. The news from New Portland had arrived 6 hours earlier and sent shockwaves through every government in the galactic community. The Zephyrian Third Battle Fleet, 17 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, had been completely destroyed by human forces in less than an hour. "How is this possible?" Vextar demanded of General Mordex, his chief military advisor. "Humans were primitives when we expelled them. They had barely mastered plasma weapons and their ships were little more than cargo haulers with guns attached." The general's forearms moved in gestures of confusion and concern. "The survivor reports are consistent but unbelievable, Chancellor. The humans have developed shield technology that renders our weapons useless. Their kinetic weapons penetrate our defenses like they don't exist. Worst of all, they demonstrated tactical precision that suggests complete superiority in military doctrine." Vextar stopped pacing and stared out the window at the council building where representatives from hundreds of worlds were demanding answers. The political alliance that had supported human expulsion 15 years earlier was cracking under the pressure of this new reality. Species that had voted against humanity were now questioning whether they had made a terrible mistake. "What does Admiral Kextan say about their flagship?" Vextar asked. "The UES Defiance is larger than anything in our fleet and more advanced than our best designs," Mordex replied grimly. "According to his tactical analysis, it could destroy our entire home defense squadron without taking significant damage." The Chancellor felt his political career collapsing around him. His rise to power had been built on fear of human expansion and promises that isolation would solve the problem permanently. Now those same humans had returned with military capabilities that made them the dominant force in the galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Helen Cross sat in the Situation Room beneath the Capitol building and reviewed the reports from New Portland with satisfaction. Admiral Stone stood at her right side while the holographic display showed real-time intelligence from across Council space. Every government was in crisis mode as they tried to understand the implications of humanity's technological leap. Altarians are calling for an emergency vote to reverse the expulsion resolution, reported Director Frank Chen of Earth Intelligence. Councillor Thane has been arguing that humanity deserves a chance to return to the Council peacefully. "What about the other major powers?" President Cross asked. "The Centaurians are maintaining official silence, but our sources suggest they're terrified," Chen continued. "The Draconians are split between those who want to negotiate and those who want to form a military alliance against us. Most of the smaller species are waiting to see which way the political winds blow before committing to any position." Admiral Stone studied the tactical display that showed human fleet positions throughout the outer rim. "Ma'am, we have a narrow window of opportunity here. The aliens are confused and frightened, which makes them potentially dangerous, but also more likely to listen to reason. I recommend we move to Phase 2 immediately." President Cross nodded. She had spent 5 years planning humanity's return to galactic politics and knew that timing would be critical. Move too slowly and the aliens might unite against them. Move too aggressively and they might provoke a war that would devastate both sides. "Admiral, how many ships can you spare for a diplomatic mission to Centauri Prime?" "The UES Defiance and 5 escort vessels should be sufficient," Stone replied. "Enough to demonstrate our capabilities without appearing to threaten the Council directly." "Do it," Cross ordered. "But I want this to be a demonstration of strength, not an act of aggression. We're going to give the Council one chance to restore humanity to full membership on our terms." Captain Ben Rogers received his new orders while the UES Defiance was still cleaning up the wreckage around New Portland. The thought of returning to Centauri Prime filled him with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. 15 years earlier, humanity had left that system in disgrace and defeat. Now they were returning as the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. The journey to Council space took 3 days at maximum hyperspace velocity. Captain Rogers used the time to drill his crew on the precise maneuvers they would need to execute once they arrived. The plan called for a display of human capabilities that would be impossible to ignore or misinterpret. "All ships, prepare to drop out of hyperspace," Rogers announced from the bridge as they approached their destination. "Remember, we want to make an impression, but we're not here to start a war." The UES Defiance and its escort fleet emerged from hyperspace directly, in the heart of the Centauri system, bypassing every early warning station and defensive outpost that protected the Council's capital world. The sudden appearance of human warships sent panic through the traffic control systems as civilian vessels scrambled to clear flight paths. Within minutes, the Council Defense Force was scrambling to respond to what appeared to be an invasion. 12 alien cruisers moved to intercept the human fleet, while orbital defense platforms powered up their weapons and trained them on the intruders. "This is Admiral Corvell of the Council Defense Force," came the transmission from the lead alien ship. "Unknown vessels, you have violated Council space without authorization. Identify yourselves immediately or face defensive action." Captain Rogers activated the general broadcast system that would carry his words to every ship and station in the system. "This is Captain Ben Rogers of the United Earthship Defiance. We have come to deliver a message to the Galactic Council regarding humanity's future relationship with the galactic community." The response was immediate and predictable. Admiral Corvell's voice carried obvious anger and fear. "Human ships are forbidden in Council space under Resolution 847X. You will leave immediately, or we will consider your presence an act of war." "Admiral," Rogers replied calmly, "we respectfully decline your order. Humanity has business with the Council that cannot be conducted from exile." The alien commander's response was to order his ships into attack formation while requesting emergency reinforcements from throughout the system. Within an hour, 40 Council warships had surrounded the small human fleet, their weapons charged and ready to fire. The tactical situation appeared hopeless for the outnumbered humans. Captain Rogers chose that moment to demonstrate exactly how much the balance of power had shifted during humanity's exile. "All ships execute Demonstration Protocol 7, he ordered. The UES Defiance moved with impossible grace for a vessel of its size, accelerating past the Council ships before they could react and heading directly toward the 3 orbital defense stations that protected Centauri Prime's capital city. The alien platforms opened fire with everything they had, filling space with plasma beams and missile volleys that should have reduced the human ship to scrap metal. Dr. Amanda Foster's quantum shields absorbed the incoming energy and converted it into power for the ship's systems. The UES Defiance flew through the defensive barrage like it was passing through a gentle rain, completely unharmed by weapons that could have destroyed entire fleets. The human battleship's response was precise and devastating. Coherent energy. Beams lanced out from its weapons arrays and surgically disabled each defense station's primary systems. Within 30 seconds, Three of the most powerful military installations in Council space were floating helplessly in orbit, their weapons offline and their crews evacuated to emergency shelters. The demonstration continued as Captain Rogers turned his ship back toward the alien fleet that had surrounded his escort vessels. The UES Defiance's railguns fired solid projectiles that passed within meters of each Council ship, close enough to trigger every proximity alarm but far enough away to avoid causing damage. The message was clear. Human weapons could have destroyed the entire fleet if that had been the intention. Admiral Corvell, Rogers transmitted to the shocked alien commander. As you can see, humanity has not spent the last 15 years in decline. We have used our time in exile to become something stronger and more advanced than any species in this galaxy. However, we did not come here to demonstrate our military superiority. The captain paused to let his words sink in before continuing. We came here to offer the Galactic Council an opportunity for peaceful cooperation. Humanity wishes to rejoin the galactic community, but this time as an equal partner rather than a junior member seeking approval. Emergency sessions began immediately in the Council chambers as representatives struggled to understand what had just happened. The humans had penetrated the most heavily defended system in the galaxy, disabled its primary military installations, and demonstrated weapons technology that made every other species obsolete. Yet they claimed to want peace and cooperation. Councillor Thane of the Altarian Republic was the first to respond publicly to the human message. Captain Rogers, the Altarian government welcomes humanity's desire to return to the galactic community. We believe the original expulsion was a mistake that should be corrected immediately. Other voices quickly joined the chorus of support as political calculations shifted throughout Council space. 3 months after the UES Defiance appeared in Centauri space, Jake Morrison walked back into the Galactic Council chamber, where his species had been expelled 15 years earlier. The same circular seats rose around the speaking floor, but everything else had changed completely. The 800 representatives who watched him now did so with respect instead of hostility, and the golden platform where Chancellor Vextar once sat in judgment now held a different occupant entirely. The new Zephyrian Chancellor, Yex Mari, had taken power after Vextar's government collapsed in the wake of the New Portland disaster. Her first official act had been to issue a formal apology to humanity for her predecessor's aggressive policies. The Zephyrian military had been restructured under Council oversight to prevent future unauthorized attacks on human territory. Jake activated his speaking device and looked up at the assembled representatives with satisfaction. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you today not as a petitioner seeking your approval, but as the representative of humanity's rightful place in this body. The response was immediate and unanimous applause from nearly every section of the chamber. The same species that had voted 847-12 for human expulsion now competed to show their support for humanity's return. Political survival demanded nothing less when faced with human military superiority. Councillor Thane of the Altarian Republic raised one of his long tentacles to request speaking time. Ambassador Morrison, the Altarian government wishes to formally apologize for our abstention during the original expulsion vote. We should have supported humanity when you needed allies, and we deeply regret our failure of judgment. Similar statements came from representatives throughout the chamber as governments scrambled to repair their relationships with the galaxy's new dominant power. Jake listened to each apology with diplomatic grace, while remembering every species that had supported the original resolution. Humanity's memory was long, and their forgiveness would be earned rather than freely given. Admiral Ben Rogers stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance in orbit above Centauri Prime and watched the political theater below with amusement. His promotion from captain had come with command of the new Terran Defense Fleet, a force of 50 advanced battleships that patrolled human space and projected power throughout the galaxy. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command, reported Commander Lisa Martinez, who had served as his communications officer since the New Portland battle. Admiral Stone requests your presence at the signing ceremony. Ben nodded and prepared to transport down to the planet's surface where President Helen Cross was about to sign the Terra Accords, the new treaty that would govern humanity's relationship with the galactic community. Unlike the previous arrangement where humans had been junior partners seeking acceptance, the new treaty recognized Earth as a founding member of a reformed galactic government. The negotiations had taken 3 months of careful diplomacy as human. Representatives worked with cooperative alien governments to restructure the entire council system. The old hierarchy based on age and tradition was replaced with a merit-based system that recognized technological advancement and military capability. Humanity's rapid rise to galactic leadership was formalized through democratic processes, but everyone understood that human military power made their dominance inevitable. Dr. Amanda Foster watched the ceremony from her new laboratory on Luna Station, where she led the Joint Technology Initiative that shared selected human advances with allied species. The quantum shield technology that had made human ships invulnerable was now being adapted for peaceful purposes, providing clean energy and defensive systems for worlds throughout the galaxy. Her greatest pride was the integration of human and alien scientific knowledge that had accelerated technological progress for everyone. The same species that had once feared human potential now contributed their own expertise to collaborative research projects that benefited the entire galactic community. Dr. Foster called her assistant Dr. Kevin Brooks from across the laboratory. The Draconians are requesting access to our gravitational manipulation research. They want to use it for terraforming projects in their outer territories. Amanda smiled as she approved the request. The Draconians had been among the most vocal opponents of human membership in the original council, but they had quickly recognized the benefits of cooperation once humanity demonstrated superior capabilities. Now they were valuable partners in expanding the frontiers of galactic science. The signing ceremony took place in the same chamber where humanity had been expelled, but the symbolism was deliberate and powerful. President Cross stood at the same podium where Jake Morrison had delivered his final warning 15 years earlier and addressed the assembled representatives with quiet confidence. "Today marks the beginning of a new era in galactic history," she said as her words were translated into hundreds of alien languages. "Humanity returns not as the same species that was cast out in fear and prejudice, but as leaders ready to guide the galaxy toward a better future." The Terra Accords contained provisions that would have been unthinkable under the old system. Humanity was granted permanent seats on all major council committees. Human military forces were authorized to operate throughout galactic space for peacekeeping purposes. Most importantly, any species that threatened human colonies or interests would face the full power of the Terran Defense Fleet, but the treaty also included protections for smaller species that had supported humanity during the exile years. The Altarians received preferential trading status and access to human technology. Several minor worlds that had quietly opposed the expulsion resolution were granted enhanced representation in the reformed council structure. Chancellor Yexamari approached President Cross after the formal signing and spoke privately through a personal translator. "President Cross, the Zephyrian people wish to know how we can begin to repair the damage done by my predecessor's policies." Helen looked at the alien leader with careful consideration. The Zephyrians had been humanity's primary antagonists, but they were also one of the largest and most influential species in the galaxy. Maintaining their hostility would serve no purpose now that human dominance was established. "Chancellor, your people have already begun that process by removing Vextar from power and accepting responsibility for the attacks on our colonies," Helen replied diplomatically. "Humanity believes in redemption through actions rather than words. Continue to demonstrate your commitment to peaceful cooperation, and our relationship will improve accordingly." The months that followed the signing ceremony saw rapid changes throughout galactic society as the new power structure took hold. Human patrol fleets appeared in previously lawless regions where pirates and raiders had operated freely for centuries. Trade routes that had been dangerous for decades became safe highways protected by human military might. Jake Morrison established his new embassy in a building that had once housed the Zephyrian diplomatic mission, a location chosen for its symbolic value. His staff included both human diplomats and alien advisors who helped navigate the complex relationships between hundreds of different species and cultures. The most surprising development was the number of alien governments that requested human military advisors to help modernize their own defense forces. Species that had once feared human expansion now wanted to learn from human tactical doctrine and technological innovation. Admiral Rogers commanded this new reality from the bridge of the UES Defiance as it patrolled the space lanes between major worlds. His fleet had grown to include not only human vessels but also ships from allied species that had chosen to integrate their forces with the Terran Defense Fleet. "Admiral," reported Commander Martinez during their routine patrol of the Vega sector, "we're receiving a distress signal from a Centaurian merchant vessel. They report attacks by unknown raiders in the outer system. Set course for their position," Rogers ordered. "All ships, combat alert. Let's remind the galaxy why human protection is worth having." The response was swift and decisive. The UES Defiance and its escorts arrived at the merchant ship's location within an hour and quickly identified the raiders as members of a species that had refused to recognize the new galactic order. The brief engagement that followed demonstrated why resistance to human authority was futile. 6 months after the Terra Accords were signed, Counselor Thane made his first official visit to Earth as the newly appointed Galactic Ambassador to humanity. The squid-like alien stood in the observation deck of Earth's orbital station and looked down at the blue and green world that had become the unofficial capital of galactic civilization. "It's beautiful," he told Jake Morrison, who had come up from the planet to greet his old ally. "I understand now why humans fought so hard to protect their independence." Jake nodded as they watched human ships come and go from the busy spaceport facilities. 15 years ago, you were one of the few voices that questioned whether expelling us was the right decision. History proved you correct. History proved that underestimating human determination was the greatest mistake the Council ever made, Thane replied thoughtfully. Your species turned exile into opportunity and weakness into strength. The galaxy is better for it.